What are the objectives of the ministry?
The first of the fundamental objectives is to make devotees submit 100% to the owner of their soul, which is Eledumare, the Lord God Almighty, by worshipping Him and Him alone. The second is to make devotees pray for their parents. The third is for devotees to pray for their ancestors, and lastly, the fourth is to build relationships with diverse interests in the world, because Eledumare is the Lord of diversity.
What are the goals that the ministry tries to achieve?
Our goal is to recover devotees from stories of men and imposed bondages. We want devotees to see things from nature as made and written by Eledumare, and not unfounded stories imposed on many.
How can you best describe Eledumare?
There are many quality descriptions, like Eledumare is the universal Lord of diversity. We want you to look at Eledumare from his diversity qualities and the need to behave accordingly, in other words, respect diversity relationships. He is the Master of Holies and the Holy of Holies, the King of the universe. Praise and glory to Thee, O Lord, praise be, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. Grant blessings to my soul. Grant blessings to my heart. The universe is created in diversity. There are different galaxies, planets, stars and so on out there. They all have different conditions and follow different rules. For example, the planet Earth will revolve around the Sun in 365 1/4 days, obediently following the rules. The same with other planets. Some being out there is in charge. The being is called Eledumare. Other abbreviations of the name are Eledumare, Olorun, Alua, or Eledua, etc. Different nations have different names for the being. The being is the universal Lord of diversity, because whatever he creates, he created them all in diversity. He created you and you have to worship him and submit to him 100%, but for you to earn his blessings, you have to respect and honor diversity among other obligations. We have planet gods like the earthly gods. There are so many of them spread across the planet Earth, for example, that you know without mentioning. We are on the planet Earth. The conditions on the planet Earth are different from the conditions on the planet Mars, planet Jupiter, planet Venus and so on. Your earthly gods on the planet Earth are not known on Mars, Jupiter, Venus and so on. But Eledumare is known on Mars, Jupiter, Venus and other planets. Eledumare is the Lord of diversity. Eledumare has made everything in different conditions and created different rules. On our planet Earth, the water planet, there are thousands of species of fishes in the ocean not related to each other, operating under different conditions and rules. There are thousands of species of fishes in the rivers, lagoons, lakes and so on, not related to each other and operating under different conditions and rules. These rivers, lagoons and lake species can't even survive the ocean conditions. Can you say mackerel fish is related to shark? The answer is no, and many others of the fishes. Eledumare, the Lord of diversity, also created thousands of species of four-legged animals not related to each other and operating under different conditions and rules. We have the lions, zebras, tigers, giraffes, rams, goats, cattle, dogs, cats, pigs and so on. Ram, for example, is not related to zebra, and many other examples. Our wonderful Eledumare, the Lord of diversity, also created thousands of species of winged creatures, the birds, not related to each other and operating under different conditions and rules. Think of the list of birds in your mind. Can you say a duck is related to the eagle? No. Never related to each other. What about the legless and limbless, crawling creatures, like the snail, worms, etc.? There are thousands of species created not related to each other and operating under different conditions and rules. What about the two-legged creatures? The Eledumare, the Lord of diversity, created several species of two-legged creatures not related to each other and operating under different conditions and rules. In this group, we have the human beings created in several diversities not related to each other across the planet Earth in different characters. Humans belong to the hominids, the great apes or hominidae. Other families of hominidae are chimpanzees, gorillas and orangutans. Humans are arrogant, referred to as Homo sapiens, which means in Latin, wise man. There are different types of humans created by Eledumare and related to each other, and often identified by their color, cranial bones, facial features, body structure, continental natural settlement, types of hair, and so on. Most of these races are not from the same source and not related to each other, just like other types of creatures defined above. But a lot have been programmed to believe they are from Adam and Eve. The diversity age of some race outdated the existence of Adam and Eve. The longer you exist, the more the diversity you experienced. Generations upon generations developing into different culture and languages. In Nigeria alone, there are 250 ethnic groups. Do you know how many years it takes for one ethnic group or dialect to develop from another? Thousands of years. Apart from measuring through diversity aging, Eledumare brought the DNA science, which in many instances have proved some bones outdating the existence of Adam and Eve. Black Africans are not descendants of Adam and Eve. We have been talking about creatures with blood. What about other creatures without blood? The planet Earth consists of many other things like the trees, mountains and plain land, air, water, and so on. They are also created in diversity. The Eledumare created diversity in the mountains, the air we breathe, the water, the trees, the plain lands, and so on. Bless the Lord, Eledumare.
What is the image of Eledumare?
Eledumare has no image and never dies. The beginning of spiritual problem is to believe that Eledumare created you in his own image. That's not true. Eledumare is a spirit being.
What are the types of diversity?
We have two types of diversity, natural and artificial. The natural derives from nature, and the artificial derives from our ways of life. Human beings are destined to behave in diverse ways. The PDC of life is linked mainly to artificial diversity, and it means programming diversity and competition. A newly born baby knew nothing about religion, culture, ideology, and other artificial diversity examples. As this child grows up, he or she is taught about culture, religion, ideology, and so on. Substantially, what matters is the where, when, why, with whom and how the child was brought up, and not the where, when, why, with whom and how the child was born. Take a child born in an Islamic society to be brought up in the Christian society, that child will most likely be a Christian and vice versa. In the same way, take a child born in a particular culture or ethnic group to be raised in another culture or ethnic group, that child will exhibit the characteristics of the raising culture or ethnic group. This is called programming. The programming of children is done through parents, guardians, government policies and practices, neighborhoods, schools, friends, religious institutions, and other exposures. After the child is programmed, he or she will be identified as part of the raising diversity, for example Christian or Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, or of the particular culture or ethnic group or ideology. These diverse groups or interests then compete for limited resources on the planet Earth. You may witness campaigns from these diverse groups and interests. This is the competition. The only spirit being you cannot compete with is Eledumare, the Lord of Diversity, the real Holy of Holies. We are essentially in this world to manage diversity and competition. This explains why we should not even fight one another, because so doing is artificial. But today, the whole world is fighting because of artificial diversity. We can use the PDC education to control conflicts arising out of our diversities.
Who is the founder and what religious books do you follow?
Those who are submitting to the ministry and will of Eledumare, the Lord of Diversity, have no human founders. There may be promoters but no human founders. The ministry is natural and original from Eledumare himself, the Lord of Diversity. There is no religious book written by any human being. Your book is written by Eledumare, the Lord of Diversity, and can be found in observation of nature, scientific discoveries, wisdom, and spiritualism. Eledumare has endowed some people with power and knowledge to discover his many powers for the benefits of all.
What is my obligation to fellow devotees?
You have an obligation to protect and promote submitting members in body and in spirit, and see yourself above those who submit to planet gods alone. Set up protective trust systems for members. You may encounter those who submit to planet gods, but still pay ultimate submission to Eledumare. That is okay. Whatever those who submit to planet gods are following is also created by Eledumare, but in diversity. Everyone must submit to Eledumare apart from the planet gods. Eledumare is a supreme being with spirit and the power of be.
How will you describe the place of worship under Eledumare ministry?
The house of Eledumare on our planet Earth is Iga, or Ago, or Ele. When you are in Iga Eledumare, or Ago Eledumare, or Ele Eledumare, the house of Eledumare, never bring any image or reflections of any planet gods, and never bring in any idolish image. When you are in Iga, the house, you are in the universe.
Why do you refer to Eledumare as the Commander-in-Chief?
Eledumare, the Master of Holies and the Holy of Holies, the King of the universe, the omnipotent and omnipresent, is the Commander-in-Chief of your life. He can make it, break it, destroy it, bless it, take it without anybody's permission and without questions or queries. He is the owner of your soul. For example, if the head of the army of a country approaches the commander-in-chief of that country, he has to drop his guns and troops at the gate. In the same way, if you approach Eledumare, particularly in Iga, you have to drop your earthly symbol of powers.
A lot of people believe that God created human beings in his own image.
Eledumare has no image. Eledumare is a spirit being with power of be. I say, the more you look, the less you see. The beginning of spiritual problems for some people is to believe, as preached by some, that Eledumare created you in his own image. No. That's an insult on Eledumare, the universal Lord of diversity. Does it mean he has eyes, intestines, etc. like you? Does it mean he goes to toilet like you or do all those things you do as human beings? What color is he, black, white or yellow? And what sex is he? Remember, I have been using he, I could have used she.